As Game of Thrones Season 8 approaches, I can't help but get hyped to see the final journeys of all of our characters. And while Bran Stark hasn't had as much screen time as some of our other main characters, I believe he will be heavily featured in Game of Thrones Season 8. So, let's start off by previewing Bran Stark's endgame. Bran Stark is now the Three-Eyed Raven and can see everything more clearly, as he stated in this scene in Game of Thrones Season 7. But why is the fact that he is the Three-Eyed Raven so important? It's because he can shine the light on what really matters. If this stands to be true, then he can be the glue that helps connect House Stark together with the rest of the realm. A pack mentality. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Someone who has connected with Bran on more than one occasion is Samwell Tarly, who also knows about Jon Snow's true lineage. There's no doubt that Samwell and Bran will make an incredible duo, and Bran needs someone to balance out his more recent cold behavior since Mira Reed left. Samwell can keep Bran connected to reality as he searches for answers within the Weird-Net, but we have to remember that the Three-Eyed Raven told Bran to not stay too long or that he will drown. I can't help but feel like what the Three-Eyed Raven said to Bran was a metaphor to not sacrifice all the important parts of himself in the present, like his connection to his family and his loved ones. If we stretch ourselves out too far in the past or the future, we aren't living in the moment and we lose sight of what really matters. We've only seen a glimpse of what Bran can actually achieve, and it's a near certainty that Samwell will need Bran to fill in all the blanks, as the books he stole from the Citadel won't hold all of the answer he needs. One question that we do have the answer to, however, is that Jon Snow is the heir to the Iron Throne. We saw this in the Season 7 finale when Bran confirmed Samwell's findings that Rhaegar got an annulment with Elia Martell and married Lyanna Stark when he went to the past and witnessed Rhaegar and Lyanna's marriage. This is going to be one of the biggest reveals of the whole series, and while it may shock the realm and Jon himself, there is a very little amount of time to reflect on this information. I suspect we may have a moment where Jon enters the crypts of Winterfell to connect and reflect with Ned and Lyanna, or perhaps we will see history repeat itself again with Jon cleaning Longclaw under the Heart Tree in Winterfell, much like Ned did. Bran knows how important Jon is to the endgame in the War for Dawn, and Jon knows how important it is to unite the realms of men before all is lost. Jon Snow is a man of action, so it wouldn't be a stretch to say that in this moment he can say that we can resolve this matter later on, and that they should focus on the here and now, adjusting their plan of action to defeat the Night King and the Army of the Dead. Jon Snow knows that arming each and every person with the means to defend themselves against the Army of the Dead is extremely important. Samwell could help Bran and Jon search for the recipe to create Valyrian steel in the text he brought back from the Citadel, and Daenerys Targaryen and Gendry Baratheon are also an important part of this equation, who will conveniently also be at Winterfell. This could be one of the more dynamic conversations in Season 8, connecting Daenerys, Gendry, Bran, Jon, Jaime Lannister, Arya, Brienne, and Samwell Tarly. Seeing the inception of the creation of Valyrian steel from Bran's perspective could help us connect some of the dots to Azor Ahai and Lightbringer, though I have my suspicions that Lightbringer is not actually a fiery sword and is actually a metaphor for a transformative moment in someone's life. Whether or not they find the answer, we know how important it is for them to have as many Valyrian steel weapons and dragonglass weapons to fight back in the War for Dawn. Now that the wall has been breached and we know that the Night King will more than likely be taking a trip to Castle Black, Carhold, Last Hearth, and then finally Winterfell. They may not have enough time to actually properly execute a plan when the Night King shows up at Winterfell with Viserion and the Army of the Dead, and Bran will have to search for answers elsewhere, like at the Isle of the Faces in the middle of the God's Eye. Evacuating Winterfell will be an incredibly large task as chaos descends upon the realms of men, and protecting Bran will be of the utmost importance. And in order for Game of Thrones Season 8 to truly have the impact of being one of the best seasons of television ever, we will have to feel like all hope is lost. Losing Winterfell after just getting it back from the Boltons would be a huge blow for the North and House Stark. Now, I think there's a couple of scenarios that I can see unfolding, including Jon telling the others to get Bran out of Winterfell in the initial evacuation as they plan to abandon Winterfell to retreat south, or Bran pushes back on this idea and joins forces by warging a dragon and teams up with Jon and Daenerys to try to fight the army of the dead and the Night King. If scenario number 2 happens and they try to stay and fight, then someone will have to stay and protect Bran Stark. Arya and Sandor Clegane could be the perfect duo to protect Bran on the ground as Jon and Dany try to take out the Night King, but if this scenario unfolds, I could see someone even more interesting jumping on this opportunity to protect Bran, and that person is Jaime Lannister. Even though Jaime Lannister has lost his sword hand, we simply cannot rule out this possibility of him joining the fight in Game of Thrones Season 8. One of the reasons I think this could happen is that Bran Stark could forgive Jaime Lannister in front of everyone for what he did, and showing Jaime compassion and Bran telling him that he's a man of honor despite he tried to kill Bran could be one of the most powerful moments in Game of Thrones history. Bran witnessed what Jaime did in his visions after the Hold the Door incident, and knows that Jaime still has a big role to play in the end game as well. However, I think that scenario number 1 is more likely, as Bran will suggest that he needs to get to the God's Eye to connect with the central nervous system of the Weirwoods and the heart of Westeros at the God's Eye. Perhaps this is the reason that Bran gave Arya the cat's paw dagger, so that she could protect him as they fight off the army of the dead and the White Walkers as they retreat south. But maybe he gave it to her for another reason, rather than just killing Littlefinger, Cersei, or someone we're not expecting. What if Arya is going to assist Jon with killing the Night King, just like Howland Reed saved Ned at the Tower of Joy against Arthur Dayne? Jon and Arya have a special bond, and Bran giving Arya the dagger would give the Realms of Men another option in the final battle in the War for Dawn. And it would make sense, seeing as history repeats itself in A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones many times. An interesting connection that we can make that perhaps foreshadows that no one will do the deed is the parallel between Arya and Éowyn from Lord of the Rings, who killed the Witch King Angmar in The Return of the King. Angmar says, "No man can kill him," and Éowyn does with Merry's help. But personally, I still believe Jon Snow will strike the killing blow, and I believe Bran saw this as well. George R. R. Martin in past interviews has repeatedly emphasized Frodo's character arc in Lord of the Rings, and I can't help but feel like Bran Stark's final journey will very much mirror Frodo's. In Lord of the Rings ending, Frodo returns after destroying the ring, and we know that the world is completely changed, and so is the Shire. He ends up leaving with the elves and travels to the Undying Land. I believe that Bran will die in the end, sacrificing himself in order to stop the Night King, like I hypothesized in my most recent video on the God's Eye, ensuring that this cycle is actually broken. I think he knows that he was merely delaying the inevitable fate of being killed by that Valyrian steel dagger. Either way, it ends up being a bittersweet ending because Bran isn't Bran anymore, or Bran's physical body ends up dying. Bran knows that the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. If you got this far, thank you for watching my Game of Thrones Season 8 Final Journey video of Bran Stark. I will be continuing this as a video series discussing characters like Jaime Lannister, Jon Snow, Daenerys, Sandor Clegane, Brienne of Tarth, and in my next video, as per requested from all of you, Sam Tarley. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire content, feel free to like this video and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming hype videos that I will be dropping on the channel. Next week, I will also be doing an A Song of Ice and Fire and Lord of the Rings comparative analysis video, and also some more Season 8 character previews. Thank you to all the patrons who support this channel, and for all of the amazing support you have all been giving me in the comment section and in the live streams. I'll see you all in the next video. Hype and love.